to CLC News. Today is the 12th of November 2019, and first of all would like to clear up a couple of points from last week just to let the public know what's going on. First of all, we had highlighted a story regarding a bailiff who'd been acting unlawfully last week, and the name of this bailiff is Mark Anthony King. Now, we have had numerous people contacting the court to say that they have submitted letters, which we're grateful for. However, the authorities obviously don't like dealing with corruption. Instead of making it easy for the public, they're wanting everything done within their system according to their rules and their procedures, and it's all about money as well. Well, I've received personally a letter today excuse me, confirming that the letter I had sent in regarding this licence renewal to object to it, they've actually sent a letter thanking me for my letter in respect of the above named individual, which is Mark Anthony King. They've however stated, in order to investigate your complaint against this agent, you must in the first instance complete and return the attached form as a matter of urgency. Now, the attached form they've put, what we've decided to do is obviously clarify a couple of points. First of all, I will actually show you the attached form that they have here. So the attached form is straightforward, there's not much to it. I do appreciate that it's costing yet again more time and an additional stamp. However, I would like to emphasise that this is urgent because we have the opportunity here to remove a licence from this individual for behaving unlawfully. The relevant paperwork's been put in, but they require us to complete this form now. I believe in the meantime what will happen is, because there's been quite a large number of letters went in, I would presume that come the hearing, which I believe was set for Thursday, they may adjourn this for a full investigation. Now, that being the case, again, I would presume, because he has a licence and within the licence it's actually marked for a specific period, I would be hoping that it has to be renewed and the date may have expired. So if that's the case, he may actually be suspended, which is great news for the public. Not quite sure yet, but hopefully that will be the procedure. And what it will also do, it will give us a chance for a day in court for the individuals concerned, the main individuals who have suffered, to appear and to highlight the unlawful behaviour of this enforcement agent, we'll say. So that should actually be resolved in the coming weeks. But if you have got one of these letters, please, if you can do so, complete the letter, send it off again to the court, but we'll just run through the information that's required. First of all, and you can see here on the left hand side of the paper, they've put various boxes down the side here, and then you have your main box here. On the left hand side, the information it's asked for is the name of the certified person. Well, the name for the certified person is Mark Anthony King. Underneath that, it's asked for the name of the company. The name of the company is Andrew Wilson and Co. And they then asked for the address. Well, the address is straightforward. The address is Salford Head Office, which is in Salford, which is in Manchester, and the postcode is M for Mother 502 N for November P for Papa. Underneath that, they're asking who the debt is owed to. Well, we're disputing there's a debt at all, because it was a mortgage one, and it was actually wiped. There's no debt outstanding. Of the company that we're chasing up this debt, supposed debt, is a company called Mortgages One. Now, the one is actually printed as a figure 1 and not ONE, so it's mortgages and the figure 1. Underneath that, they're asking for excuse me, a reference number. The only reference number we can actually find is possibly one that Mortgages One use. So if they're asking you for the, well, they have asked for the reference number, if you can insert the following, that would be E for Echo 7, P for Papa 6179. I'll repeat that. It's E for Echo 7, P for Papa P for Papa 6179. Underneath that you're required to put your name, your own address, your signature and date it, and then on the right hand side, which is obviously here, the only thing we've inserted there is C attached letter, and then what we'd like you to do is again, unfortunately, print off another copy of the letter which you can download from the website. Remembering when you do so, put your name and address up here, and on the final page again sign a copy here at the bottom of the page. Send that in and that will go to the court, and hopefully there will be a hearing set up for this, so that should move matters forward. Thank you once again for this. It will make a big difference. You have the opportunity here to do something to assist this corruption with the corruption. It's about time that we sorted out, it's about time it was stopped, and obviously working through the common law court we can actually do this. What you have to remember is that the people have the authority in this country, and if the people stand together we can actually do things. So as we have an opportunity here, so again please feel free to do so. Moving on to the next subject, what we'd like to do is highlight the enforcement action that we took last week. Now CLC, the Common Law Court, has an enforcement team which has been set up, which is called CLC Peace Service. Now we have additional people helping out just now, we've appointed another couple, so we're moving forward, but two of the enforcement team turned up at the premises for a pension company. The pension company concerned is called Carey Pensions. Now the interesting thing was that Carey Pensions had defaulted, they'd breached a contract, and it was nothing to do with the investment, it was to do with the senior manager of the firm. Now the senior manager of the firm was responsible for losing money, which had behaved fraudulently in relation to the contract, but instead of putting matters right, they've just washed their hands and said it's nothing to do with us. Now the individual concerned, this was obviously informed about what would happen to her, was then obviously says we run through a commercial lien with her for obviously the damage to the loss. There was no additional costs required by way of percentage or obviously additional fees for damages. The only thing that was actually asked to be repaid was the money which was invested and which was lost. Now the individual concerned wasn't happy to do so, refused to do that, and even got a solicitor to write a threatening letter, which obviously they responded to that once, and the solicitor never came back, knowing that they can't do anything to us as we stand under common law. Now the interesting thing was the enforcement agents haven't turned up at the company premises, which are in Milton Keynes, went to the door, which was a security door, and having did so, there was a gentleman there, an employee, going in to the building. The employee had asked who the enforcement people wished to see, and they were there also in uniform for the Common Law Court. They had stated that they wished to see the individual concerned, who is now called Coral Harris. She was previously named Coral Hallett, but she's since married. When it was pointed out they wished to see her, the individual concerned said yes, not a problem, she's actually in upstairs if you'd like to come in, and they allowed them entrance to the building. Having got into the building, the individual, the male individual, then turned around and he said, look, before I actually call her, can you let me know who you're from, or what you like, why you would like to see her? The enforcement agents pointed out, well look, it's not a problem, all we need to do is just serve some paperwork here we'll have from the Common Law Court. At which point the individual concerned got a bit nervous and turned around and says, well, can you wait here a minute please, I'll just go and get someone. Having went away a few minutes later, an irate female by all accounts came down to meet the enforcement agents at reception. Now this individual is named Christine Hallett. Now Christine Hallett is the mother of the girl concerned. Christine Hallett is also the owner of the company and the CEO. She had came down and immediately says, what do you want? When it was pointed out they wanted to see her daughter, she turned around and informed them that she was not in the building, she was 8 months pregnant and she was in hospital, which was obviously a bit of a news given the fact that the male employee had actually just said she was in the building. Now although the enforcement team have the authority of the people and have the paperwork that enable them to enforce any action, they'd felt obviously rather than causing a scene, what they would do is behave lawfully and just retire and obviously serve the paperwork another way. They did point out that they would consider going to our house, but decided the best way to deal with it would be to send the paperwork by recorded delivery. We can actually confirm that today the paperwork was signed for and that they have now 7 days to respond to this, which will make it amusing. The interesting thing about the individual concerned, the mother, which is the CEO for the company, she had previously tried to protect her daughter, who is a convicted criminal. Now, she's been convicted by a jury of her peers. She was given the opportunity to respond. She'd failed to respond. She failed to appear in court, and she has actually been found guilty of various crimes, including fraud. Now, instead of obviously accepting this and returning the money to the rightful owner, she refused to do so, and the mother has assisted in this criminal offence. Now, at this moment in time, while no additional sums have been taken for interest accrued since the court hearing, or for additional damages, if the money is not paid within 7 days, there will be an additional case lodged. This time it will be lodged against the mother, who is acting as the CEO for the company. Now, that will be a substantial claim for damages for harm, loss and injury, but the mother will be served with this and she will have to appear herself. In relation to the mother's behaviour, the mother, by refusing to deal with this issue, has actually committed crimes against the people. She refused to accept the authority of the people. She's acted unlawfully. She's obstructed justice and interfered with the lawful service of a court order. So this is something that may have to be looked into in the coming future, but that should be dealt with in the next week to 10 days after we find out what the daughter is proposing to do. As I said, the daughter had lost money. She was under clear instructions to get the money out. There was a breach of contract. She failed to do so, and she was actually notified if the money was lost she would be held accountable. She refused to do so despite obviously numerous attempts and emails and phone conversations, and then after a period of about 7 or 8 months she then lost all the money, having been warned previously about it. So she's due to pay up, so we'll see what happens and we'll update you in due course regarding this. On a final point there, in relation to that, what they've actually done is the enforcement team have actually set up an alternative website. The company is named Carey Pensions, that's C-A-R-E-Y Pensions, careypensions.co.uk, to highlight and expose what has happened in the fact that the company are fraudulent, they're behaving fraudulently and criminally. Alternate website has been set up with the same domain with one exception. There is now a hyphen between the words Carey and pensions. So if you visit carey-pensions.co.uk, you can see a new website giving photographs of the mother and the daughter and giving you a link to the common law court website. Should you wish to read about this, there is a new feature up under latest news as well, and we'll keep you updated shortly in the coming weeks. The next subject we wish to cover today is that of the difference between the legal fiction and the living man, and also the authority for the individuals and the behaviour of the existing authorities, stroke government, stroke courts. It seems to be relevant just now given what's going on with the election and also Brexit and various other problems, but we are asked occasionally, time and time again, about this is the difference between the living man and the fiction and how this works. For those of you who don't know, we'll try to cover this very simply. When you actually deal with the authorities, you're not actually dealing with them as a living individual, a living man or a living woman. At birth, the state create what they call a legal fiction, a legal entity. Now, it's created at your birth, which you don't know about, and then the behaviour of the government from then onwards is fraudulent because they fail to disclose what's happened and they're using a fiction which is attached to you and you know nothing about. Now, what actually happens according to their rules, we'll call them rules because they're not laws, what actually happens is by creating this this legal fiction, they have created a contract. Having done that, because the contract is set up, it has to be valid. Now, for a contract to be valid according to their rules, there has to be full disclosure, which means that the individual parties concerned have to be notified about what's happening. Now, the government have not informed the child, and they have not informed the parents in relation to what they're doing with the fiction. So therefore, according to their rules, the contract becomes void. If the contract's void, it also voids the original birth certificate and any funds attached to it or trusts attached to it, and also the use of this fiction by the state is fraudulent. So therefore, because it's fraudulent, you have an option to obtain ownership. There is no point in trying to get rid of a fiction because it exists in everyday life. It's used for everything. Other than recording your birth with the common law court, there is no record of you. If you haven't already done so, on the common law court site, you can submit a declaration confirming your birth, that you were born, who your parents were, and where you were born. That then confirms your standing as a living man or a living woman. Once you've done that, there is then a record for you within the common law court site, and you receive a registered number. The registered number is nothing other than confirmation of the declaration you've made. It gives no authority, no control over the living man or woman. All you're doing is submitting a declaration. Now, having done so, you then have the right to obtain ownership of the legal fiction, the legal entity, the fictitious name, whatever you want to call it. Because it has been used fraudulently by the state, they do not have the right to do so. Now, because it exists, someone has the right to obtain it. It should be naturally the individual who was given the birth name, which be you yourself. So you have a right to claim the legal fiction attached to you. You may do so once you've established your birth under common law by completing a form under the category fictitious names. You identify the name which is the fictitious name, using a title beforehand, Mr, Miss, Mrs, so on. Enter your full name, and then you would give the business address. The business address is the address that the state have you registered to, which would be the address that your bank account's attached to, the address on your driving licence, and so on, and where you're registered with the doctor's surgery. This is the registered address for the business. You then claim ownership of the fictitious name as a living individual, a man or a woman, and then in doing so put your home address and then complete the rest of the form. Now, by doing that, you have claimed ownership of the fiction. You then own it, which means that without your consent, the state cannot proceed against you. Now, I've personally used this in a court case in Scotland, whereby this had not been rebutted or challenged for over a year since I obtained the ownership of this certificate and the fictitious name. I confirmed my standing in court as a living man with the production of a birth certificate. That was confirmed that the court did not have jurisdiction over the living man, which was fine. However, as they wished to proceed against the fiction, I confirmed that I own the fiction. I confirmed that they had created it fraudulently, that I have a superior claim, that I had ownership paperwork issued from the common law court, and as such they could not proceed without my consent. But to assist the court, I then offered the court the opportunity to challenge this ownership, both the prosecutor and the judge for the case concerned. However, given them the opportunity to do so, they failed to do so. I had turned around and stated that if they wish to proceed, the first thing they would have to confirm is how the legal fiction was created. Well, they can't, because it was created fraudulently without your knowledge. So they didn't challenge it, so it was confirmed as a fact in law that the living man had claimed ownership of the fiction and did own the fiction. This has never been challenged, rebutted, and obviously through tacit agreement, the ownership of the fiction is confirmed. that I own my legal fiction. Similarly, as with any other individuals in the common law court who have done the same, they own their legal fictions, which means that the state cannot proceed without their consent or without a valid contract. Now, on the subject of contracts, when you go into court, there are various things that happen. People keep mentioning things when you go into court: do not do this, stand a certain way, don't say certain things. The main issue when you go into their supposed courts, which are not courts, they're actually places of business, they're corporations. When you actually go into these places of business, you confirm from the start that you don't consent to the process and that you're challenging their authority and jurisdiction. Now, having done so, that is enough to get you out, because they cannot proceed. Anything they do will be, as they call, void ab initio, which is void from the beginning, because they have not established authority and jurisdiction. Now, you've confirmed your position. If they fail to do so, they can't proceed. But what they will try to do is they will try to get joinder, which is effectively agreement, a contract with you, to proceed. When they come in, they will invite you, the legal fiction, to come forward and stand in the dock. Now, this is all based on maritime law and their rules and regulations. It doesn't make any difference what you do as long as you confirm your position. And again, if you're actually not doing what they're asking for, they're obviously going to try to take action against you. And we have known many people be thrown in jail for contempt of court, even in civil cases, which is they can't do, but they do it simply to try and shut you up. So they will do that. But the point is, if someone calls you, you're entitled to step forward. By stepping forward means nothing. When they ask your name, you can identify yourself as a living man or woman and give your name, and then state that you're actually there for clarification only. Now, by saying you're there for clarification purposes, you're there to establish who the defendant is, whether the defendant is obviously a living man or woman, or whether they're referring to the legal fiction. But by stepping forward and asking or stating you're there for clarification only, you've not consented to anything. The judge may then ask you to take a seat, but again, there's not a problem doing that. You're not complying with anything. They will try to obtain joinder, but by taking a seat you can simply say, well, I'm quite happy to do so as a courtesy to the rest of the people here today. So you can sit in the chair. It's not a problem. You're not giving consent as long as you establish your position and do not give them joinder. If you interact with them and you start discussing the case and the problems there, you're creating a contract and joinder. You have to establish that you are challenging the authority and jurisdiction. Now, if you do that, they cannot proceed. So that's the way the system works. In relation to obviously additional things, when we're speaking about Parliament, the courts, the government and things like that, what the people have to remember is that the people hold the authority in this country. The people hold the authority because they're actually born sovereign. Now, they're actually all born sovereign, because when you're born, you're not attached, affiliated to anyone. What happens is the government grab you because of the birth certificate, or you'll be taken into a community as a citizen, or obviously you'll have certain social standing because of your position, your name. You'll obviously be taken under the umbrella of a religion, regardless of what religion it is. You're basically then sort of pulled into a system. When you get older, you have the right to determine where you want to stand. Whether you are religious or not, whether you wish to stand within the existing statutory system, whether you belong to a country or not, it doesn't matter. You can decide how you wish to proceed. Under common law, you have the inalienable rights to make up your own mind. You can stand and determine your own position. Even within the statutory system, which again is what they use, they've even acknowledged that you have the right to do so, and you cannot be forced to join any system or anything else that you don't want to. That's highlighted in the United Nations Charter on Human Rights. So anyone that tries to force you in is committing crimes under their own so-called laws. But under common law, natural law, universal law, God's law, the Creator's law, they cannot do that. It is a crime against the people, and they will be held accountable. Now, the situation regarding governments, elections and parliament, that we're actually in the UK about to have an election. All the politicians are running about just now looking for votes and trying to justify their position. It's ridiculous. They're doing so just now, he said, but they do nothing to assist the people. They're there, they're paid for by the people, and they're put into their position because of the people. Now, when they're there to represent the people, they're there to do what the people want. The people give them instructions to do so, and yet these politicians are refusing to do what the people say. Not only that, they're actually trying to dictate what the people will do and try to dictate to them. They can't do that. They only exist because the people created Parliament, the people created government, and the people pay their salaries. If they're not doing what they should be doing, remove them. Now again, if you wish to obviously vote in the elections, entirely up to yourself, but again, if you choose to do so, remember that the people have the authority. If you would like someone to represent you, it's not a problem. Just make sure that they are doing what they're paid to do. But again, you'll find it very difficult getting a politician to do anything other than protect the state and big business. So again, hopefully that's clarified some of the position in relation to the legal fictional living man. Remember, as a living man or living woman, you have inalienable rights, birthrights. You don't have to comply with their system. It doesn't mean standing out with the system, because you will continue to operate on a daily basis. You'll function, you will use items when you choose to do so, for example a passport to travel, because obviously the unlawful restrictions they put on people, you can do so under duress to enable you to travel, but as you own the fiction, you're not consenting to anything. You're obviously using this to operate daily, which is not a problem. As long as you confirm your position, it shouldn't be a problem. And remember, the people have the authority here. They dictate what goes on. On a couple of final points today, we'd like to clarify a couple of things. First of all, in relation to the situation with David Noakes. David Noakes has a pending, hopefully, court hearing coming up. The what we'll call it, judge, justice, magistrate, it was a magistrate last week, had decided that she was going to issue an extradition order against David Noakes. Surprisingly, when they went to court, their place of business, paperwork was issued in 20 pages, but when they've issued this paperwork confirming the findings of the court, by all accounts we're led to believe that it hasn't come from the magistrate. So therefore, she was supposed to be ruling in this according to their procedures. She's failed to do so, and she's handed down documentation from somebody else. So it came from a higher authority, we don't know who, but she's obviously said she can't alter or change anything. When there was certain information presented on the day, she refused to do so. What we can confirm is that this has been challenged and paperwork's in, and they're currently awaiting a date for a hearing. So when we receive notification regarding the hearing, we'd obviously like to inform the public, and again, if you're able to do so, please attend this court. It's been noticeable when in these courts with a large public gallery, it's putting the judges, they're uneasy, put it this way. They're not happy about it. These people should be held accountable, and hopefully will be so in the coming weeks and months, and depending on obviously what's going on. But if we have a large presence in court, it makes them very, very uncomfortable, because they're actually being caught out for their unlawful behaviour, and what they're doing is now being witnessed by various people and being recorded, and will be used against them in the future if they continue to behave unlawfully and commit crimes against the people. But hopefully, if we get we should get a case shortly, David will be in there, and hopefully justice will be done, and we'll get a result for him, which will in fact impact on Linda as well, Linda Thayer. Linda is still currently in France just now, but by all accounts, if you can actually write to her, or you have an opportunity to do so, she is responding to letters personally, so she's grateful for the information that's coming in. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of feedback about her, so the information is sketchy, other than saying that she is receiving letters and she can respond. So please feel free to write in if you choose to do so. The information is up on David's site. You can get it on the YouTube channel for Enar Crane as well, and David's site for GC Math. Okay. Moving on, I would like to clarify that today the Common Law Court has set up a list of email addresses. Now, there's quite a bit of work going on just now, and obviously we have many people throughout the country, and not only here but the world, are actually involved with what we're doing. But what we've decided to do, because there is far too many people involved just now, we've decided to set up local contacts. So there are numerous contacts within the UK which you can contact in your local area. Should you wish to use the main address, you can continue to do so for general inquiries. If you choose to speak to someone locally, you can email your local contact. Now, there will be many more areas set up in the future, and we do have many contacts in each area as well who can respond to emails. So please feel free to do so. It's on the contact page, and you'll see that there's actually a link to click onto to give you your local contacts. We also have some additional general contacts, which is for the enforcement team, for press, and for CLC News. So if you wish to obviously contact CLC News, you may do so. If you wish to ask questions or you wish to cover any features in the future, we're happy to do so. So please write in through the CLC News email address. Contact us there, and hopefully we'll cover this information for you in the coming weeks. The other thing in relation to the emails, we've started very slowly, but we've put up a couple of international contacts. Now, we have currently people from 80 countries now, and there's a list of that on the site as well, but people from 80 countries have signed up to this. They are using this just now, but obviously we're doing quite a bit of work with people in various countries and obviously educating them. We've got a couple of people who have been involved for a while, so we've put up contacts for them, but as we do more and more work with people abroad, we will actually set up contacts in the coming weeks for additional countries, which will allow you to speak to someone locally instead of coming through the main site, so hopefully that will help as well. And again, similarly on the last point, what we're going to do is confirm that we're hoping to have a meeting down south, hopefully in the Cardiff area. We're just waiting to confirm the venue and the date. We'll notify you in due course about this. There'll be information going up on the latest news if obviously we can confirm that in the coming days, so please keep an eye out for that. And similarly with the work we're doing just now, it does seem to be moving on rapidly. We would like to thank everyone for their help, everyone that's been involved in the Common Law Court, the work that they continue to do, and the help that's been given from obviously members of the public. It does make a difference. It is helping just now, but for those who haven't yet subscribed, please, if you're in a position to do so, can you please make a monthly donation to the site? Even if it's only for £1 or £2, it does make a difference. Literally says for everything it comes in, it's being used to develop the site, the facilities we have, and to ensure the safety of your friends and family just now and in the future. By the work we're doing just now, things seem to be moving on, but it does take finances, and as I says, if everyone were to contribute a monthly donation of £1 or £2 per month, that would make a substantial difference to what we're doing. If you're reluctant to do so, but you can make a one-off donation, the facility is there as well, so please feel free to do so. Hopefully says you've enjoyed this, and we will speak to you again next week. We're hoping to have someone on next week, so again, bear with us and we'll try and get some interviews arranged for the coming weeks. But please email in CLC News if you wish us to cover any specific subjects. Okay, thank you for joining, and hopefully we'll see you next week. Bye.